The Liberal MPs who were elected from the Toronto area should be here making noise about these problems, but they're silent. And why are they silent, Mr. Speaker? Because they've decided to back up the Prime Minister's failed policies. When will they stop choosing the Prime Minister over the people?
You know, Trudeau can lie to us as much as he wants, and he can filibuster and use all these fancy, fun, happy words to describe his government. But at the end of the day, the facts are the facts, okay? And we like facts over fear-mongering here. The worst part is, though, is when somebody tries to avoid the facts, and it turns out that they are something very much to be afraid of.
Repeat violent offenders, time and time again, firing illegal handguns in the streets of Toronto. It's absolutely ridiculous, and we've called upon the federal government time and time again to implement stricter bail for repeat violent offenders, and we're asking that again today.
Welcome back to Over Opinionated with Jasmine Lane. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. You can also like the video, comment your thoughts down below. I do my best to get back to as many comments as I physically can, but it is a one-man show over here.
Mr. Campbell, of course, you are the Police Association president of Canada's largest police union of over 8,000 members, correct?
That's correct.
Yes, thank you. And I want to extend a sincere thank you to you and your members for the work that you do and putting, frankly, your lives and well-being on the line every single day to keep our community safe. Thank you very much for the sacrifice of you and your members. We deeply appreciate your service to this country and to Toronto. Recently, your police union put out a number of concerning statistics, notably a 45% increase in shootings and a 62% increase in gun-related homicides just in the last year alone in Toronto. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. And recently, we've also learned that the Liberal government updated numbers is showing that currently, the government's plan to confiscate lawfully owned firearms from the legal gun owner community is costing upwards of $75 million thus far, and yet not a single firearm has been purchased from a lawful owner. And in fact, no impact has been had, of course, on the criminals and illegal gun trade that's going on.
So let's just get through what we do know to be true. And I'll start off with a tweet from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. This was published October 21st, 2024. He says, 2 years ago today, we froze the handgun market and stopped handguns from being bought, sold, or transferred anywhere in Canada. We choose your safety over the gun lobby every time. A lot of people say that this is a huge scandal. And I mean, when we get into some of the details of it, it does appear like the whole federal buyback program may very well just be a money laundering operation. That's kind of the only thing that they've been successful with doing with it. And there's been a lot of people as well, rightfully so, saying, well, if this program was supposed to save lives and keep our streets safer, why has crime gone up? And that's something that I would argue every single one of us can see, no matter what neighborhood that we live in. And while this is a little bit more of an older detail that you may already be familiar with, in response to Justin Trudeau's tweet, the Toronto Police Association actually tweeted themselves, "Criminals did not get your message. Our communities are experiencing a 45% increase in shootings and a 62% increase in gun-related homicides compared to this time last year." Whoa, those are some high numbers. What difference does your handgun ban make when 85% of guns seized by our members can be sourced to the United States? Your statement is out of touch and offensive to victims of crime and police officers everywhere. Whatever you think you've done to improve community safety has not worked. This tweet exchange went beyond viral, and to be fair, yeah, I would say the vast majority of things that the Trudeau Liberal government does is very out of touch and oftentimes very offensive because it is so out of touch. Like, it's a government that is so clearly not paying attention to what is happening under their rule. It's no wonder why Pierre Poilievre has built such a large fan base. And to further my analysis that the Trudeau government is really just one backed in ego and narcissism, that tweet alone is so outrageous because obviously, Justin Trudeau is familiar with the data. That is, the federal firearm buyback program has cost tens of millions of dollars since 2020, and it has not collected a single gun, not even one. So how dare you go and post somewhere thinking that we're all stupid and we don't know this information? That, oh, that's why we created this and we're against lobbyists. You're against lobbyists? Really? Look at who your environment minister is, buddy. Before we get back to the clip, which I promise you is going to make you feel very enraged, let's focus on the fact that the average person, you hear, oh, okay, so there's been like $70 million spent in this federal gun buyback program. So clearly that's because they're buying back the guns. That's amazing. $70 million worth of guns have been seized. Great, if you're an advocate for it, of course. No, actually, that money has gone to external consultants for software, logistics, communication support, and more. So we have spent somewhere in the realm of $70 million on absolutely nothing. We've spent it on an idea. Senate opposition leader Donald Plett actually said that 67 million, that was the number that was reported just a few months ago, is an incredible, shocking amount of money to spend on a program that doesn't even exist. A program which ultimately targets licensed, trained, law-abiding gun owners and not criminals. And even more outrageous is the fact that $11 million of taxpayers' hard-earned money has been given out to external consultants. Those contracts need to be made public. That is the most damning thing at all. That's why I say it's a very successful money laundering operation, because it doesn't exist. This program that you have isn't doing anything. It doesn't work. Nobody's buying into it. Nobody's giving up their possessions, because why would they do that? I don't personally own any firearms, but I know plenty of people who do. I grew up in the bush. To get the licensing and training required for certain types of firearms, it's a very lengthy process at times, and it can be very expensive. And then to purchase them is very expensive. So yeah, nobody's going to be giving those up. So what the hell did you use our money for? Who are these consultants? Who are these logistics person? Who are these communications people? What are they? What is communication support? What? Who is communication supporting? Like, honestly, this doesn't exist. So where did that money go? Because I can assure you, it did not go to public safety.
The Liberal MPs who were elected from the Toronto area should be here making noise about these problems, but they're silent. And why are they silent, Mr. Speaker? Because they've decided to back up the Prime Minister's failed policies. When will they stop choosing the Prime Minister over the people?
My position as a Liberal Party, my position as a Toronto MP is simple. Let's keep the citizens of our cities safe. How do we do that? By ensuring that we have less gun violence on our streets. How do we do that? By shoring up our borders to prevent guns from crossing the border. The specific border services that party cut when they were in power prior to 2015. What we also do is we recognize the important impact on domestic violence that gunfare has. When we keep guns out of the homes in people in cities in Canada, what we're doing is ensuring that domestic violence doesn't have a pernicious impact on women. That's how you keep Canadians safe.
I want my friends and neighbors in Toronto to take note. This Liberal Justice Minister is looking back at things that happened over 10 years ago, while he's been here for 9 years and takes zero responsibility for crime getting worse. Imagine that, getting elected to serve your constituents, sitting here for 9 years and can't take a single bit of responsibility for a problem that he should be trying to fix. Mr. Speaker, it's very, very clear. Crime is worse. The Liberal MPs elected to serve Toronto are failing to do their job. When will they stop choosing the Prime Minister over the people?
And that makes what's coming up all the more infuriating.
Can you comment on what the Toronto Police Service would do with $75 million to combat gun violence?
$75 million would go a long ways. And I do want to comment that in Toronto, we're seeing that 85% of the firearms that are seized, and we seized 600 this past year, are from the U.S. We completely feel that the current gun ban buyback program has zero impact on crime in the city of Toronto, that it focuses on legal gun owners and not on the criminals committing offenses. And another thing that's so important is our bail reform. We are seeing repeat violent offenders time and time again firing illegal handguns in the streets of Toronto. It's absolutely ridiculous. And we've called upon the federal government time and time again to implement stricter bail for repeat violent offenders, and we're asking that again today.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. And of course, your remarks a few weeks ago criticizing the Liberal Prime Minister for taking quite a strange, I would say, victory lap on social media about their so-called handgun phrase. You were quite direct in your criticism of that, and in fact, you said that it was offensive to police officers. And frankly, we've seen a number of other police associations join you, from Surrey, BC to Hamilton, Ontario. So there seems to be a very widespread message that's coming loud and clear from police associations that the current tactics, of course, are not working to stop gun violence. And in fact, as you well know, gun violence in general across Canada over the last 9 years of Liberal government is up 116%, in addition to a general increase of violent crime of 50% in 9 years. And you're, of course, familiar that $75 million has been spent thus far, but Liberal government's own estimates put the confiscation regime from lawful firearms owners to be $1.8 billion. And in fact, the Fraser Institute has estimated it would be well over $6 billion to institute the confiscation regime. Can you outline for members of the Finance Committee what $6 billion or even just $2 billion would do for police services across Canada to combat violent crime in particular and gun violence as well?
That amount of money would be a game changer for policing services across Canada. In Toronto, our budget is just over $1 billion with 8,000 members. That type of money could really impact our ability to provide adequate and effective policing, track down these violent criminals and keep them in custody. It would be absolutely a game changer for policing across Canada.
Thank you. And as you've outlined, the vast majority of crime guns that you have seized are traced to the United States. And so can you just outline again the impact that is having on the safety of Toronto?
It's literally a daily occurrence. We have hundreds of shootings a day doesn't go by that we don't have, unfortunately, a firearm offense in Toronto. I go to community meetings all the time. Our citizens are scared. They're scared to go out in the street. We're seeing violent offenses all the time. And the biggest problem, again, is it's repeat offenders. We continually arrest these people. They're back out on the streets in a matter of days at times, committing offenses again.
Yes, thank you for outlining that. Of course, we know bail was made the default, in essence, by Bill C-75 a few years ago, a Liberal bill, and it's having obviously very far-reaching consequences in this country. And just to conclude, Mr. Campbell, of course, as you outlined that the crime guns, the majority are coming from the United States, I'm sure you would support more robust security measures at our border to stop those crime guns from coming into Toronto. Is that correct?
Absolutely. When we're having 85% of these firearms seized, the illegal firearms seized coming from the United States, we completely support more resources at the border to prevent them from coming across and causing chaos in our city.
I'm Jasmine Lane. Thank you so much for watching up until this point. We just hit 20,000 followers or subscribers on YouTube, which is just unreal. I cannot even fathom that. And truly, thank you is an understatement. I left my job in mainstream media to pursue YouTube and to pursue being able to freely discuss. For the most part, YouTube does have some restrictions, but the things that really matter and the things that I really want to be talking about versus all of the BS that you hear in the media these days. So I'm truly eternally grateful for you for supporting me on this journey and for being here right now. I had posted a community notes just yesterday about certain questions that maybe some people would want to know about me. There's been plenty asked, and unfortunately, I can't always answer them. Go and check out that post, and I would love to answer all of your questions in my next video. If you haven't done so yet, you can subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, give it a like, and hopefully we can help more Canadians, more people around the globe realize just what's happening here and really how urgently it needs to be fixed. Hope you have a lovely weekend, and I will see you very soon.